All right, now I'm live. Whew, it has been only about 2 days since I had a hangout, so it hasn't been that long. But I did actually want to have a little discussion because from what I've been observing on Google Hangouts, some of the Christian apologists slash intelligent designers and creationists have some very terrible arguments for the existence of God. Now, I'm not an expert on arguing for God's existence. I'm not a PhD philosopher or some type of doctor in theology. I'm just a guy who just finds this stuff interesting. And I happen to be one of the guys who actually believes in this stuff. So I said, why not actually know what I'm talking about somewhat? If you're going to believe in something, why not actually know the background behind it? So if you guys want to join in the discussion, just say so in the chat box to the side. But um, what I tend to see now in Christianity today, I can't speak for any other religions because I'm not really a part of those cliques. I wouldn't really know how Muslims are arguing for the existence of God, or how uh, Mormons or other people are arguing for God's existence. But from what I see in the Christian community, is a lot of people are using creationism and intelligent design as evidences for God's existence, which would be fine if creationism, as in younger creationism, or intelligent design were not true, in the sense that they're arguing against evolution and they're trying to say if evolution isn't true, therefore intelligent design, therefore God, and uh, not just any God, but our specific particular God. When intelligent design is a broad spectrum, where you even have Muslims, and I think some Jewish people, um, and even agnostics who argue for intelligent design. So, um, even if intelligent design was somewhat valid, it still wouldn't prove our particular deity, um, which is kind of ironic because Christianity is exclusive to one God, that God being Yahweh. I'm going to check the outside chat and see if somebody has requested to join. Yeah, so intelligent design and like younger creationism. Oh, I don't really have a problem with order of creationism because I'm sort of an order of creationist because I'm a theistic evolutionist. So I'm an order of creationist by default. So I don't really get a say in how old I think the Earth is, um, because I'm a theistic evolutionist. But hold on, I'll send you this link. I gotta go another way. I can't put the link out publicly, Spence, because there's somebody who is a sniper, and what that is basically, there's a glitch in Google Hangouts where if you just start inviting random people, they can come into the Hangout, and they can actually kick me out of my own Hangout, which that ain't gonna happen. Hold on, I'm not finding you. Here you go. So there have been some very bad arguments for God's existence. One argument in particular I really don't like is the moral argument. So there are some particularly good moral arguments for God's existence. And remember, these are not proofs of God's existence. These are arguments. These arguments do not necessarily mean that God 100% does exist. These arguments are just supposed to pose that, hey, this is a good reason to believe in God's existence. Me personally, I think that believing in the deity or God is a belief. It is a religion, and it cannot be 100% proven. However, you can have good reasons and good evidences to believe in it. It's almost like a hypothesis. Um, like for example, the origin of life. We have good reasons to believe that life first started off in the oceans. Now, is this 100% fact? We don't know. Could it be proven wrong? Absolutely. Do we have a good reason to believe it? Yes, we do. So until somebody can falsify it and then we can move on to something bigger and better, be my guest. And somebody just messaged me. Give me a minute. Hold on. I'm about to send somebody else the link, guys. I actually do like for God's existence is, well, I don't think anybody else has actually made this argument before. They could have, but I know, well, Steve and I, we both, this is a point that Steve McCrane and I both agree on. If beyond space and time, right, and this guy decided to go and make the whole universe as big as it is and as vast as it is, we wouldn't know if God existed unless God revealed himself to us. And knowing there was a God in the first place, unless God came to you. There is not something where you go off into the mountains and you find Jesus. You just wouldn't know unless God put himself to you. Have a way of knowing if God existed. The universe is a very, very big place. And we practically don't even, well, we don't know what dark matter, we don't know most of the universe is or what's in it anyway. Let alone we think you're going to go beyond the 3 dimensions we have access to and find Jesus. So that's just an argument I would use for God's existence. I would say you wouldn't even know if God existed unless God revealed it to you. Now, what's the word I'm looking for? That would, so that's more of an argument from abduction, um, where you basically what's the word I'm looking for? That would cross out, and I'm not even saying this right, but that would cross out most of the like other religions, and that would bring you down to like more of the religions that um that are more theistic. Like for example, like um a deistic God, right? A God that doesn't really interact with the universe. A God just creates the universe and he sits back and he puts the universe in motion, but he doesn't really interact with the world like a deistic God. I think a God like that could exist, and that argument would be a reason for why I don't believe a God like that could exist. Now, my argument could be flawed, and that argument isn't that God, that my God exists. It's just an argument, and some arguments are good, and some arguments are bad. And I think that's what Christians and theists alike should understand, that none of these arguments are definite proofs of God's existence. I'm quiet because I'm sending the link to somebody so they can join. So I just don't have like a monologue in here or an echo chamber. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, we explored about like what 4% of the universe, and to say like, you know, like I can show you God. I don't think that's the case. It would be really really hard to find God in this big universe. Um, I do think I think that God has revealed. Of course, you know, because I'm Christian, I do think God has revealed Himself to us. Um, I'm talking and I'm stopping because I'm trying to send the link out to people. Give me a minute, guys. Like a list where like every time I start these hangouts, like it'll just invite you guys automatically. Cause you guys know Brojo started Skyping sniping again. There you go, Brojo. He started sniping again, and so he had to get blocked. So like if you guys have him on your contact list, make sure you block him. Hey Wayne, this is the other Wayne. This is my church family. Me and him, we know each other from church. Me too.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, so just talking about better arguments for God's existence. An outside chat said that we'll assume that for God to exist, he has to be out there in the universe. It's like assuming that engineers do not exist because I cannot find one in my car. A little different because yeah, an engineer, of course, is somebody who helps put cars together and stuff like that, right? Like we know engineer exists because we've seen engineers before, right? But nobody has ever seen God. Um, an engineer is somebody who exists within space time, and like we've witnessed an engineer before, but nobody has ever seen like an unmoved mover. Like we barely even know what something like that is. My puny brain can't even wrap itself around something like that. So it's a little bit different. We talk about God.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, I heard myself echo. I have a question though. So like when you said essentially that you feel God, right? Like it's like an emotional or I don't know how you would describe it. But I agree that that is an argument for God. And I think that's probably the only good one I've ever heard. But how do you know that it's God and not just something in your brain?
I said I feel God. That doesn't.
Well, no, like I don't know how you described it. Sorry, when you were talking earlier.
Yeah. So I think what I had said was if there is a God, you wouldn't know if God existed unless he revealed himself to you.
Right. So the revealing, like, would you say God has revealed himself to you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what is that like, and how do you know it's God and not your brain?
Well, when I say God has revealed himself to me, I don't mean it in an emotional sense. So I'm not really an emotional person. Like, for example,
Sure.
I don't know if you ever been to church and people say stuff like, well, I can just feel God talking to me, or I feel the Holy Spirit. That's never really happened to me. I don't really have those emotional tugs. Now, what I do believe is I believe that God has revealed himself, not just to me, but to anybody who's willing to look into the evidence. I think God has revealed himself in the person of Jesus Christ.
I'm not really sure what that means. Sorry.
Okay. So, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Christianity, but
I was a Christian for 25 years. The first 25 years of my life. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, the Bible makes the claim that there was a person named Jesus who walked the earth and was God's son. And so, when I look at the evidence for Jesus' existence, and when I look at his own claims when it comes to his divinity, the miracles that he's done, and the evidence of him resurrecting from the dead, is convincing to me. And so I believe that that was a legitimate incarnation where God revealed himself to mankind. And I think based off of the evidence, I have a good reason to believe it.
So essentially you're saying like you believe in the resurrection and that's why you believe in God? Like I'm just trying to sort of okay, that makes sense, I guess. I mean, I don't really understand why, but I mean, I guess that's fair.
So yeah, that would be an argument I have. I'm convinced from the evidence of like the resurrection and the incarnation and the miracles.
And that's
somebody else.
It's funny because I look at all that same evidence and I'm not convinced, right?
Right.
So so I guess I just wonder why. Like, what makes it compelling to you? Because there has to be something. Like, it can't just be the evidence alone. Because I think if you look at it objectively, it's not all that convincing. So there has to be something else that's tugging you in a direction.
I guess it depends how people look at the evidence. So because I re-examined a lot of what I believed in the past. I don't know if you've been following my YouTube channel, but this has all been documented.
I saw some. I didn't see some of the early stuff.
Yeah, like please don't go back to the early stuff. That's really embarrassing.
I've only been following you for like maybe a few months at most, so I don't know.
Well, I'm a former younger creationist. I don't even know if you know like what that is or
yeah, I do. I actually do know about that about you. Yeah.
And so like that like took a real toll on my belief and on my faith, and so it made me re-examine a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised that I still am a Christian after going through something like that, because it can be really psychologically damaging on you. And
No,
so
I know exactly
I
what you
have had,
mean.
yeah, yeah, and you find out like everything you believe is a lie, and like, where do you go from here?
Oh,
And so,
I went through lots of so somewhere around the age of, I don't know, it was probably around 22 or 23, I started to question things like creationism and the science that I was taught in church. But then I thought, no, but there's a God, right? So like for a long time I still believed there was a God. I wasn't maybe really a Christian anymore, but I still thought God was real. And then I just took it one step further and started examining more evidence, right? Like
right,
I took it beyond the science and started to just look at humanity and history and other religions and that sort of thing. And then it all fell apart for me, right? So
mm,
I get what you mean though with the young earth creationism. It's when you're taught something really strict, right? Like it has to be this way and it doesn't work scientifically,
right.
then that tests your faith. And I get that. Yeah. I mean, I was in that boat for a few years before I started, I don't know. I started traveling and that really got me into trouble. It exposed me to the world and it corrupted me. No, really, that's
Yeah.
what happened, I think.
Well, I mean, I do think we are supposed to get out of our bubble, because like if all you hear about your religion is from the people in your religion, and you never go out that bubble, and you hear about your religion from other views and other angles, then your belief isn't going to be what's the word I'm looking for, or it's probably not going to be a rational belief. It'll be more like an echo chamber. You won't come to your beliefs because they're actually your beliefs, but these are beliefs that were reinforced on you from your peers.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I mean, like you, I was never a very emotional person. And so I went to a church where people were like slain in the Holy Spirit. And I learned to speak in tongues, but like 5 years later than everyone else in my age group, because I was pretty resistant to it. Like things like that. I wasn't into it, right? I was into the
right.
science and Dr. Hugh Ross used to be one of my favorite authors. I have all his old books, like from 20 years ago. And yeah, like I thought there was stuff there, and I went to university, I went into engineering, I found a lot of it not to be true anymore, and then, I don't know, it just started a cascade of doubt and discovery, I guess.
Oh, Wayne, you the other Wayne, you know about like speaking in tongues and stuff. So it's funny, me myself, I never believed in speaking in tongues. Because I had a different interpretation of it. I never thought
Sure.
speaking in tongues was like speaking in a mysterious language. I always thought, oh, these were just people speaking different languages they didn't know. And
Yeah.
then there's other Christians who say, no, this is the language of angels and whatever. And so, my brother in Christ, Wayne, right here, and I don't know if he's working right now and doing what, but I don't know if he changed his opinion on it or what. But we've talked about it, and like we had two different views, still believe in God, and like I don't know, like you, like I never really was into like the speaking in tongues type of stuff. I never was really into the emotional type of stuff, and so it's strange for when I talk to other people about this, they'll say, wow, it's really weird how like you still kept your faith, because the people who you do see who are religious, they happen to be more emotional, right? And then like the people who aren't really religious, they're more into the sciences and stuff like that. So I'm not
Maybe.
saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying it never happens, but I'm just saying like I don't know, from where I'm at, like from what I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like most of the times it's either one or the other, and then really you do get those people like myself, or I don't know if you met Fiona or Jay, people who are like
Oh
into
yeah.
like the intellectual side of Christianity, and they're like, yeah, you can totally keep your faith and you can be into the sciences and stuff also. So I think that's great.
No, I think that's great too. I just no, I never really had, I wouldn't say I ever formed my own opinion on speaking in tongues. I was just brought up to do it. Like ever since
Mm,
my first memories, I remember people speaking in tongues, and that was something that happened every Sunday at my church. And then, around the time you hit 10 years old, they're like, you should be speaking in tongues by now. And all my friends started to, but I didn't. I resisted it because it didn't feel real. And then eventually one day, I kind of like the pressure kind of got to be too much, and I was like, I can do this, and I just did it. I can still do it. Like and to me, like I know it's fake because I can still do it, right? And I don't
Right.
feel like there's no, yeah, like it's something I definitely learned. I mean, I know people say you can't learn it, but you can learn it. It's definitely learned. I mean, maybe some people it comes to them naturally, but I don't know how that would be. I mean, you hear it every Sunday or every Wednesday and every Tuesday and every Friday, because I went to church 4 days a week, 5 times a week. So definitely learned.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you about speaking in tongues. Even though I've never done it, don't believe in it, but the people speak it, they really do believe. Like
Yeah.
you know, and that's the power of belief, right? Like they really do believe. Like this is coming from God. This is real language, whatever. And like it's I do admire like that type of, like they do have like that type of unmovable, unshakable faith. So
Yeah. I guess I don't really I don't know. I don't really like think faith is really I don't know. I admire faith, but at the same time I kind of what's the word? I don't have much respect for it, honestly. I wish I could, but I don't.
well, what type of faith do you need? Because faith can just I guess it's synonymous with belief. So I guess somebody
Sure,
can
I
have
just
a
mean
blind faith
belief
that they have
without
no.
reason. Belief without
There
good
you go. Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
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 So
I do think that the faith they have is not, it's not a reasonable faith, but it is just unshakable. Now a reasonable faith, a reasonable belief to me would be like, I always use this when Darwin came to his conclusions about evolution. He didn't have the evidence yet, but it was certainly it was reasonable for him to believe it. So that's
I
that's the type, that's the type of faith I would like exemplify.
yeah, so if you have a reason to believe it, why do you need the faith? Like I guess I just get confused as to where faith comes in and where like reason and evidence come in, right? Because like are you supplementing your reason and your evidence with faith or bolstering it? Or if you have enough reason and faith, do you need like or reason and evidence, do you need any faith at all? Like
So what I
so
would
I
say.
remember a story when I was in Sunday school. I remember a story and we were talking about faith, and somebody asked how much faith did Noah have when he built the boat. And actually my teacher's like, I don't know. Maybe Noah didn't really need any faith because God actually spoke to him, right? Like he had a conversation with him and he knew that God was real and he knew what God was asking for. So faith wasn't really required. Faith is something he would have needed if he'd had a dream maybe and didn't know for sure if God wanted it, but he was going to do it anyway.
I don't know, because he still can. I mean, humans can find any reason to doubt. I mean, humans doubt almost everything. So
Sure.
uh,
So
I guess like what I would, because I can't speak for Noah because I never had God talk to me. So, but I
yeah.
guess
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I would just say where I would put faith in my own life is it comes it would be the middle ground between reason and evidence. Like a good example would be like in the resurrection. We have some evidences that Jesus did resurrect from the cross, from the grave. Like we have reasons to believe that he did, but I couldn't explain to you on a neurological level how he went from being brain dead to being, you know, physically alive in 3 days. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know the mechanisms behind that, but we have the evidences to say that, you know, he was outside of the grave. His disciples believed that he, you know, resurrected from the grave, and they died for him. So I will put my faith in the fact that maybe one day in the near future we might be able to explain it as time goes on. And so my faith would be in between my reason and my evidence. It fills in the gaps for the evidence that I don't have yet, and maybe we might have it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad thing. You know, when scientists make their models, I would say, you know, as their predictions for their models are becoming more true as time goes on, they need to have faith that as time goes on, their predictions will become more accurate. So
Do you
it's
really
not
think
necessarily
that's
a bad
do,
thing.
do you think they do though? That's not really how I was taught science works. So
Well, yeah, science, yeah, science falsifies, but you do need to have faith. So, like, what I'm saying is
where?
because
No, I don't.
it's
You lost me there. I don't get it. Where do you need to have faith? In what?
you need to have that your predictions for your model as time goes on will become more accurate.
Why?
And,
Like I don't get that.
well,
You're injecting faith there, and I don't get that. What do you mean?
well, I mean,
Maybe
if
I
you
don't
don't, what's the
know.
point of?
Well,
Yeah, because if
because
you don't, if you don't,
well,
what's the point of trying? I mean, it's a very gloomy and dark thing you start going on once you start getting to like doubting everything and like I don't know and like you do need that faith so you
but
can put in the
science
effort.
doesn't care about gloomy, and science doesn't care about what you hope for or what you want, right? If you want to do
Right,
science
but right,
properly, you simply you do the experiments, you collect the data, you find the results. It doesn't matter what you want to happen, right?
right, but right, but what I'm saying that's the reason why we do experimentation and etc. Because we have the faith that what we imagined or what we believed might be
So
true.
so
And so we
I
test it.
kind of feel like I could replace your wording of faith with the word desire. Am I wrong?
Sure.
Like, okay, so you desire to know
Okay.
that God exists, in other words, right? It's not so much that you have faith that he does, it's that you want him to exist. Am I wrong?
Not necessarily.
Really?
This
I don't know. Just the way you described it, you were talking about desire, right?
No, you said I was talking about desire. I was talking about faith, but you said okay, let's replace the word faith with desire. But
Okay. Well,
what
I'm still
what
trying to maybe I
right?
don't know what you mean by faith then, right? Like cuz that's the thing. I don't get how I don't get where this faith thing comes in when you're talking about science.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is it's that faith that produces results. So you keep on trying over and over again. You have to believe that hey, they're right or etc. Because if you don't, right, if you don't have that belief, or if you don't have that faith or that hope, what's the point of doing anything?
To get the truth and to get results.
But what's the point of getting? I mean, like we can keep on going back, but you need to have some type of like reinforcing belief for why you want to get the hope and why you want to get results. So most scientists. So
Desire.
this goes.
Because it
I guess you
sounds
could say yeah.
because it sounds to me like you're talking about desire, like a want, right? A desire, a goal. Maybe you're driven. Maybe you've got some motivation. Maybe motivation's
Yeah,
the word.
yeah. I guess you could say like motivation or like hope. That would be that would be a better word. You have a hope for
But not for the
what you
results,
I
though.
guess what huh
But not for the results. Like you're not hoping to get a certain result. You're just hoping to get a good result, whether that be negative or positive. Like you're
well
hoping to get the truth. You want the
yes,
truth.
you want the truth. Yes, you want the
Okay.
truth. And so when we do science, we hope that we are going to get the truth. And if I mean, if we doubt everything about everything about everything, what's the point? You do need to have some type of hope,
Okay.
unless
Well,
like you want to live in like a nihilistic like world where nothing matters and it's just like
Well,
that's really
right. So
depressing.
if you want to use the word faith in terms of finding the truth, like if you can have faith in a process, which is like trust in a process, right? You trust in a process because it's shown to work, and you're trusting that it's going to get you to the truth.
Right.
That's okay. I get that. That makes sense. So your trust in God is based on what? Because you're trusting science because it's a process that works. So your trust in God is based on
Right. My trust in God, and in the same sense people trust in the scientific method because it leads them to truth. My belief in God leads me to truth as well, but it's not the same as science. So science deals with the natural world and getting natural results. But my belief in God would be my hope for truth, for like what happens when you die. Is there a purpose and meaning to life? while my hair, et cetera, et cetera. So it deals with the deeper things that science doesn't touch on, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. And so that would be like the hope or belief or the reasons that I have when it comes to God's existence and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I see it as different because your hope is based on what you want to learn. I don't know where the trust is in terms of God. Like I still don't see the parallel between God and science, right? They seem really different to me. I'm still trying to.
I guess it
I guess
depends.
I'm still trying to figure out what faith means to you because I never really understood it myself, even as a Christian. I know it's stupid, but
I have the Webster's Third New International Dictionary can probably clear up. There's one definition of faith which has like a bunch of definitions. So I'm just going to use that's the first one. The dictionary has a bunch of definitions. I'm going to use the second one. Yartate, belief, trust.
Yeah, trust. I understand that. I just don't know where the trust works with God because I guess I've never had any reason to trust. Like, I guess trust, because to trust to me is based on like things I've learned in my past experience, you know, like things that I've done repetitively over and over again. I know that, you know, when I sit down in my chair, it's not going to collapse because it never has in the past, kind of thing. Although there's always like a bit of an uncertainty. But I guess I feel like with God, I've got nothing to build a trust. Like I've got nothing to back up a trust, right? Whereas faith, like I could call it faith because I'm just believing without reason. But I guess I don't see where trust works in that sense.
It's different types of faith though. Like you can have a blind faith, you can have a reasonable faith, right? You can you can have a wavering faith. So I mean, I guess it depends. So, but I guarantee I wouldn't change your mind in this one conversation. But it's something to consider and something to look into.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not asking you to change my mind. I'm not even trying to change yours. I'm just trying to understand your point of view, right? Because I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess so the type of faith that I would say Christians should have, right, is a reasonable faith, or a rational faith. Oh, somebody just came in. Okay. Yeah, a reasonable faith. And Christians who don't have a reasonable faith, I wouldn't necessarily knock them because you could have, like, for example, when people lead cults, right? The cult followers, they have an unwavering faith, but at the same time, they don't have a good reason to have the type of faith they have. And so I guess atheists would feel like, people who are religious, they have that unwavering cult-like faith, but they don't have good reasons because, I guess they would say religion's a cult or, whatever. But I don't see it that way. I do think you can have legitimate reasons for having a belief. Like, for example, that doesn't make the belief true. Like, your atheism could be very rational, but that doesn't mean it's true. Your Buddhism could be very rational, but it doesn't mean it's true. So, being rational and logical doesn't necessarily equate to it being correct. There's one step of the way where it's a lot better than not having a rational faith or belief at all. And so, you now can look at the other rational beliefs and work your way from the top to the bottom and start doing abduction. So you can find out of these rational beliefs or opinions, which one is the truest or the most correct. And then, as you go down the list, as you go down the line, you'll come to what most likely is the truth. And I think Christianity is the best possible belief out of all the other beliefs.
Do you ever just not want to use the word faith? Maybe like why do you use the word faith and not trust?
Well, faith is more synonymous with hope. Because Christians, we have a hope. We have a hope for the future. We have a hope that that Jesus that Jesus will one day, of course, come back and do what the Bible promises that he will do. So it's more of a hope based off the evidence. So.
I think that's a really great way to put it, but I guess I just don't find hope as a good way to get to truth, I guess.
Well,
like I think you phrased it really well, but now we're back to hope, which isn't really.
Well, I guess all I can say, because so you and I, we both like can agree, like we're not really like emotional people, whatever. So like,
yeah.
Even I'll give you a really good example. So when I didn't accept the evidence for evolution, and how long did I study this for? Like Steve McCrae will know, because around that time, that's when him and I were like fighting, somewhat. I think it was maybe like a month or two or something like that. I was doing my investigations, and what I had did was, because I was so brainwashed from younger creationism, I actually went and I looked up all these different like detective handbooks, because you can go online, you can download some of these handbooks for free, PDFs, and like they'll show you how detectives do investigative work and stuff like that, and how to actually look at the evidences, which I probably forgot most of it by now. But long story short, when I put those, those different methodologies to the test, and I used them for myself, and I came to the conclusion, oh well, my methodology is telling me that evolution definitely is it's a fact. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely didn't like it. I didn't know how to really reconcile it, and like I started questioning things like, wow, like if evolution is true, what about this and that? And just because I didn't like it, or because I didn't feel like it was true, whatever, it didn't make it not true. I guess in that sense, all I could really do is trust or put hope or put my faith in the methodology that led me to the truth. And so in the same sense, how science leads us to truth about the natural world because it's a methodology, I guess when it comes to God, our hope, our faith would be one of those methodologies that lead us to truth about the supernatural realm and the supernatural world, and etc.
Okay, yeah, I think I understand you a little better now. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I know it's I find it really difficult, because even as a Christian myself, I never really grasped the concept of faith. I mean, I believed. I think if you ask me why, I don't know that I ever would have been able to give you a great answer. Like I could say lots of things that sounded good, but I don't know if any of them were all that honest. I don't know.
What were some of them? Just asking.
Oh, at the time I believed, that the Bible was the word of God, and that I believed in some of the hokey, like archaeological evidence that actually doesn't exist. And I didn't think that the universe could be created. Like I thought it had to be created by something. And even though I wasn't an emotional person, every now and then, like I believed that God was like working through me or talking to me or something, right? Like not like in words necessarily, but I believed, like I had what I thought was a personal relationship, right, with God or with a spirit or something. And it seemed convincing at the time. It's just, I sort of still feel the same things now, and I don't believe in God anymore. So I guess looking back, I just believed it because I was told that's what it was, maybe. But
I just want to ask this one question. If Christianity was true, would you worship the Christian God?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Because I don't know who the Christian God is. That's why it's hard for me to answer, right? Like because the Christian God that I knew is probably different from the Christian God that you know. No, really, it was because the God that I knew hated gay people, right? And we're gonna send them to hell. And
were you Westboro Baptist?
No, I was Pentecostal. Might as well be. It was close. The Christian God I knew didn't think that women, like were equal to men, and didn't, like that sort of thing. So that God, probably not the same God as a lot of other people on YouTube know. I in the end, like before, like I stopped believing in God, I became a universalist. I thought the only way that God is worth worshiping would be if everybody goes to heaven, right? If he doesn't punish us for his mistakes, kind of thing. That was kind of where I ended up. And that was my last little shred of belief. And after that, I just couldn't do it anymore. But so I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't know what Christian God people believe in. I'm pretty sure everyone has their own ideas, and it's not the same for any two people.
Okay, I was just wanting to know.
Yeah, I couldn't answer you. I don't know.
So I have a question. So what is it basically that you have against God, or is there anything you had against God or against Christians or against believers?
No. I mean, there's little things like I'm against legislation. Right? Like I'm against teaching young earth creationism in schools because it's not science. Unless you teach it in a theology class, I'm okay with that. I'm against, like not letting women do what they need to do with their bodies, right? So that they can live happily and safely. I'm, like things like that, right?
So you're not against a God as far as
I'm not against a God. I'm against some of the legal nature of religion, where it interferes with my life. I'm against that, but I don't care what people do or believe, and I don't care. I don't really have an opinion on God per se, right? You'd have to describe each one to me.
Okay, so do you believe like we so how you think that we got here as far as out here as far as how you think all the creation and all that stuff came about? If there's no God,
like going back to how far?
Like basically how we got here. Basically, some people believe in a Big Bang theory. That's how we all came about. So
well, the Big Bang doesn't describe. The Big Bang doesn't describe the beginning of the universe, right? It only describes the expansion, and we know that happened. Like there's really no question there. As far as what happened before the Big Bang, it's interesting because I was reading a paper. It was like 6 months ago, and I can't remember it, and I can't remember who wrote it. But basically, like they're redoing a lot of the math, and they kind of think that the universe is eternal, and it actually does expand and collapse over and over again. And maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm not saying I believe that, but I think that works. Maybe multiverse. I don't know. But everything we know from the Big Bang on is not really in question, I don't think.
So. All right. Let's say that that you read something in the Bible, and the thing that you read in the Bible came to life. Now, what I mean by came to life, came to reality. Let's say the Bible tells you to, give to the poor. And then you give to the poor, and then next thing you know, someone blesses you with dollars, and you just be like, all right, where did that come from? And it's like all you was doing was being obedient and just applied like what the word of God said, and you just did it and you believed it. Or like Wayne said earlier, you just had faith in what you read, and then you applied it, and a blessing came your way.
Well, it's kind of like so what you're describing is actually like a real life experience to me. So when I was in Vegas, we were playing the slots and I wasn't winning, and I'm like, that's it, I'm going to do a rain dance. So I like stood up and spun around. I was like, do, 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 do. And I pulled the thing and I won. So from that, should I deduce that my rain dance helped me win? I don't know. Should I?
I mean,
right?
I'm not understanding that. Really,
well, it's a coincidence, right? It's a coincidence.
Right. She did her rain dance and she won.
I did a rain dance. Rain dances work, people.
But what I'm trying to say is, what if you're reading the Word of God and the Word of God becomes real to you?
Well,
You
so
know,
do you mean like
would
if
you
the word
still,
of
are you
God,
going
if
to
some,
say, are you
do
going
you
to
mean
say
like
that you
if
still
the,
don't want to believe, you know, even though the word of God revealed itself to you or it came to reality to you? So
okay,
basically, the word of God is, if it's
but
helping you in your life, as far as you, when you apply it,
Hey,
and let's say you apply the
hey, Wayne.
principles to it.
Wayne,
Hello?
I have a
Yes.
friend who wants to come in. Can I let him in?
To what?
Yeah. Talk to me on the side chat. Let him finish talking.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So, I think what I was trying to say is, so let's say, you know, if, oh man, I think I've lost my thought.
no, I know what
But
you were saying, right? Like, but I'm just saying, like, how would it be more convincing than a rain dance in front of a slot machine? Like what are you talking about? Like what are you proposing? Because if it is like I give some money to a poor guy and the poor guy like does me a favor, that's pretty cool. It might be coincidence. It might just be like kindness repays kindness. I don't know how that fits in with the Bible though. Like you'd have to be more specific. You're being very vague. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Basically, I'm sorry about that. That was like a
It's okay.
lousy example. That was a lousy example. But what I'm trying to basically say is, all right. So as far as our belief in Christ and believe in God, like Wayne was talking about earlier, to him, you know, you know, he found enough evidence to believe what it's saying. So for me, the reason I was kind of different. I was raised up in church, and so absolutely was taught certain things, and you know, and so I can understand where you're coming from. I can understand where a lot of people come from when it comes down to why our church do this, and the religion aspect of it, and the traditional aspect of it. So by that understanding, I do understand why people may not want to or stop believing because they had to get you know what they was raised into. Because when you're raised into something, basically you're forced to believe that this is what it is, and you gotta believe in it. If you don't, then you know parents may get mad or whatever the case may be. But but for me, it didn't start kicking in until I'm 26 now. So it didn't start kicking in until I started 20 years old after my 20s. That's when it started kicking. And what I mean by that is the Bible and I believe everything started coming to reality. So what I mean by that is once I start applying the word, start reading the word, studying the word, I basically start praying, start doing what it told me to do. I start praying, and actually, what I believe is God do speak to you. There's ways that He speak to you. I believe a voice, like a sound of my. Sometimes you gotta well, a lot of people may call it your conscience or your brain or whatever the case may be. But I believe that's God speaking to me because the reason why I believe that's God speaking to me because it's good things. It's like it's a voice that's telling you to do the right thing. You know, so I have experienced that many times. Times I've been in a situation that I could have, you know, fought people, fight people, killed people, whatever the case may be in that situation. And I had a voice telling me, don't do that. And that voice actually helped my life or saved my life many a times. Or don't turn left, turn right. And once I turned right, I realized when I turned the left situation that happened on the left, you know, it was just shooting on the left. It was shooting on this block. You know what I'm saying? I had experienced that many times. So for me, God started revealing himself to me, you know, in that kind of way and through his word. Once I start applying his word, you know, once I start applying it and start living it, it helped my life. It helped benefit my life. Like a lot of people say you're a good person. A lot of people say, man, you know, I don't, you know, you're a great guy. You're trustworthy. And I got all that because I believe in Christ. I believe in God, and God started showing me all these, you know, things. So that's like a little to many story of my testimony of how I came to believe. I didn't just believe. I did get out of the traditional and the religion aspect of it. A lot of people try to put so much emphasis on God and Jesus and all this stuff. Jesus is not black; he's white, and you know, and they try to take, you know, so much out of it. So just to explain to her, just to give a little story of my little testimony, how I came to believe. You know, I don't just believe because a pastor just preach in the church, or I don't just believe because somebody tell me to believe. I believe because I researched it. You know, like Wayne said earlier, I researched it, and when my research came to the fact that it start coming, once it start coming to reality, like when I start applying it and it start working in my life, you know, that's where I start to believe it. And I believe you don't believe just believe in anything. You gotta, you know, you gotta test it. You gotta test it, and you do gotta test it. You
I
gotta
no,
test it.
I agree completely. It almost just sounds like we have the opposite histories.
Yeah,
You
because
know, like
because I can understand where you came from. Like when you say you did all your studies, and that basically took you out of it. And so
yeah.
I can understand that, you know, because you know. But what made it? What made you? No, what took you out of it? Like you said, as far as what was you saying as far as the things that took you out of believing in God or believing in Christ?
Well, I had to stop going to church because the people at church were horrible. So I had to stop going, right? Like, I mean, like I can't persecute people for being gay or trans or any of that stuff. I am way too nice a person to give a shit what people do in their bedrooms. I don't care. I don't care how they dress. I don't care any of that. So my church was horrible and it treated people terribly. So I had to leave, and I couldn't find another church that worked for me just where I was living at the time. So I had to quit going. And essentially my life didn't change. In fact, my life got better. And the only like religion, the only God that I still had in my life was just, you know, at home reading the Bible or on the internet kind of thing. And I just found that the more I read, the more I learned, the more people I talked to, the more friends I made, the less it mattered. And it just didn't, just wasn't important anymore. And then when I really, like near the end of that, I just sort of stopped and I looked at everything that I knew, and I didn't have a reason to believe in God anymore. So that's all it was. I just fell out of it, essentially. And my life got really good. So I didn't really, I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed to rely on God anymore.
Right, I can see where you're coming from too. That's why I wouldn't really use a testimony similar to like Wayne. Like so me myself, I personally wouldn't use a testimony like that because I haven't really, so like, you know, ever since I became a Christian, my life has been moderately the same, as in I wasn't homeless, or I wasn't like really poor or anything. Like I nothing has really changed for me in the sense of like finances, right, or like health or anything. The only thing I can say is the reason why I still continue to believe is just because I think the evidence historically for the religion is pretty compelling, and that's about it. Because if you do believe in God because of how good you're doing in your life or whatnot, it could be the case that one day, right, you could run into a good sum of money, or like something really beneficial could happen to you. And you're right, like then you don't have a reason to rely on God or believe on God. But
Or the opposite, right? Like so actually something else that I never really thought about it as being like pertinent to my loss of faith, but I mean, I watched my dad get really sick and deteriorate with cancer and then eventually die. And I don't really view that as like an argument for or against God or anything, but I watched him and I watched what it did to him. And the thing that made me really sad was that he got really depressed because God didn't heal him. And I hated that. I hated watching somebody's faith get shattered because of their situation. And I don't know, maybe part of that plays into it too. I don't know. I hadn't really thought of it before. But it's an ugly thing to see someone like he was a very devout Christian, and near the end, like between the drugs and the pain and just dying, he kind of wasn't right in the head anymore, and I think he got angry with God, and that was sad. So I think not only good things happening in your life, but really bad things too. Like I don't understand personally how that can make you change your mind on things, but it does do that to people.
It's rough, man. It's rough because you definitely do look at the people who like go through a lot of suffering and stuff. Even, you know what? Even like half of like the New Testament was written from prison, and so Paul is sitting there, you know, in these cells, and he's getting whipped and beaten, and then at the end of his life, the guy got his head chopped off, and he still goes and he believes in God. And like, I don't know, me personally, honestly, me being honest, I don't know how he did that either, and I'm a Christian myself. And I don't know, man. That stuff is rough, man. And for somebody to go through something like that, and their faith is still wavering, but they still do believe or whatnot, man. Let me tell you, your dad was a soldier. Your dad was a soldier, man.
Well, yeah, he was. Except, like I said, like I don't know what he even believed in the end. He was mad, and I don't know. He didn't. He kind of gave up with the prayers and stuff near the end, and that was sad. Like I kind of wished he'd, I don't know, just been more comfortable with the whole thing, but he wasn't. That's too bad.
Yeah, because we all say in certain situations, I would have done this, or I would have. You don't know what you would have done.
No, of course not. No, it's not what I would have done. I just would have liked to see him at peace. That's all. Yeah. I mean, that's all it is.
Wayne dropped out. Hey, Black Pack, you've been in here for a couple of minutes. I haven't even said anything. How you doing, man? Black Pack? I don't know if you can even hear me or not. Wayne, what are you doing? Are you near the computer? I'm gonna mute you for a minute because you kind of lost. Sound like you're near a train.
Yeah, I'm still here, bro.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, he just got muted. But yeah, wait, sir. Keep speaking and muting.
Maybe he is on a train.
Yeah, I think he's like on a train or oh, you know what? Wayne, you're on your way to work, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, be safe, man. It's late out there.
Yeah, but I understand where her name Shar.
Shar.
I understand where you're coming from. Like, it's not that I could try to say to probably fix you or that's not my thing. That's not my thing to try to fix you. But what I can say is that my relationship with Christ. You don't believe. Tell me when I was growing up, when you start believing in God, things gonna be peaches and cream, and that is not true. That is not true. Like actually, it basically when you believe in God, it just teaches you how to deal with situations. Like for me, how to deal with situations, and that's what it did for me. It changed my life because normally the way I would respond to things is negative, like negative. Before I was really saved, I would respond to things negative, like basically how normal how people say normally how you respond to things. But when I believe in God, I respond to things differently. I don't respond to people like I would normally respond, and that really helped my life. So like I said, for me, God has changed my life, and He has helped my life, and He helped my life to be better. So it's not to say that bad things won't happen to good, Christians. Bad things do happen to believers, even though you may believe in God. And some things you could try to question God, but I got hearing that you said about your father. It really, I know that stand like that do hurts, but it's like it's a lot that comes with that. And I think it's deeper. It's real deeper. It gets deeper than that. Because like when you in your relationship, like my relationship with God, I could definitely I had questioned God many times when my grandma passed, take her so soon, and He don't answer immediately, but He'll show you. For me, He showed me, why my grandma had to go because she suffered, and it was better for her to leave than to stay suffering and going through all the stuff that she went through. what we want to hear. You know what I mean? But God, when He does things, He mean well, and it's not like he He has the mind. And also, I had to learn that God don't have the mindset that we have. You know, the things we think are not the ways He think. You know what I'm saying? So what He do, sometimes we don't ever understand it, but I can what I do understand is like I had to understand like God is not going to do anything to hurt. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's deeper than it's deeper than that. But from just talking basis of it, I just know that my relationship with him. I have my ups and downs. There's some things I probably do may question God about, like, why is this happening, or if my dad was to pass today, yeah, I would definitely probably have some doubt or questions, but it won't stop me from believing in God because I also know the good things that He has done. I know He had healed my mom just a week ago from heart failure. You know what I mean? I know He cured my mom, my aunt from breast cancer, so all the other things that that happened. I know there's other stories that I could tell you, but like I said, I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to speak on my belief. I can only tell you why I believe, my reasons to why, and go from there. And
I think that's I think that's great if you feel happy and content, and whatever enriches your life, like, I'm not against it in any way. I don't think, personally, if I'm being totally honest, I don't think it's God that's making your life, that's doing that. But if you do, then, like, I could be wrong, and if you believe it, then that's cool. I don't have any problems with it whatsoever.
Okay, so you say you don't believe it. What do you believe that it is? Like, because basically, when it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
Wayne,
So
Wayne, Wayne.
so,
Let me say this real quick before you go. This might surprise you, but not just with you, but with any other Christian who tells me the same type of testimony you have, where I was living a bad life and I stopped. I'm a Christian saying this. I don't necessarily believe it's God fully either.
Yeah,
And
I
over
mean,
here goes silent.
I hear stories. I mean, I hear how people, like, feel, oh, what's the word? They're comforted by their belief in other gods, or by, just karma, or, I mean, I hear the same sorts of stories from other people, and they believe different things. So I think it's human nature, honestly. I do. And I think it's stuff within us that we don't even know we're capable of. But again, I'm not claiming to be absolutely right on that. I'm not a neuroscientist, and even they probably don't know. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to like I'm sorry, I just kind of popped in but I kind of get an idea of the conversation. But how I look at it is, since from a Christian standpoint, I believe none of it could even be possible. So therefore, it's because of God, even if it's not through God directly, like how Wayne is putting it. There's a sense that we still believe that it's because of God, the reason why these that for instance, my mom being healed of cancer or something like that. It wouldn't it's kind of
and people dying of cancer.
Well, no, I was actually gonna
I was about to say that too.
Yeah, actually, what I was gonna say was it's like a mathematical probability, to where it is almost impossible. Well, I would say that it's past, impossible. Like, it is beyond possible to come back from it, to survive from this, and you turn out you do, and the only it's almost like naturally you're supposed to die. So so the mathematical probability will show that it kind of give it to what it's due, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I've never really heard a convincing miracle at all. And I also had just in the past 2 years, I've had 2 friends just die in their sleep with no explanation.
Yeah, actually, it's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy that you say that because literally my my old ex youth pastor, my old youth pastor, his son, who was 4 years old on the night of Passover, died in his sleep. So
Yeah.
I so I totally
So
get so I totally
so
get what you're saying.
but I'm just saying then God would be responsible for the good and the bad, right? Like you can't decide what he's responsible for.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to say he did this miracle, then you could also say he killed a kid in the middle of the night for no apparent reason.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily, because if that's the case, that he's responsible for
Everything or
well,
nothing.
or old people's death too. But then again, that's just, I mean, everybody dies. You know what I mean? So I mean, just
Sure.
Well,
so
yeah, but even so, even I, like me being a Christian, I would say sure, like God's responsible for that, and I don't see the problem with God being responsible for it because He's the one who put it into motion anyway. Like if you want to believe God
Yeah.
exists, He's the one who,
yeah, and
yeah.
I wouldn't put it in a sense of killing, because to me that's like, you know, kind of to me that's just like just the way the word, just the way it sounded, just sounded like as if it was absolute murder. That, but yeah,
Well, sure, but then I don't think in the case where somebody recovers from cancer with a small probability, I don't know that you can call that healing either. That could also just be luck or coincidence or their
Well,
body healed itself.
I mean, because let's say, like, let's say in a situation that you pray for this person. Now, you have prayed, like a lot of times, a lot of people have prayed, they have fasted, for a healing to happen, and it had worked. And God had answered them. So, because God got certain requirements. Sometimes His
Well, yeah,
requirement
but
for
what about the time? I
hold
just want to say, what
on.
about the time when it doesn't work, right? When people die and like God just like
Hold
it
on,
seemed like
hold
He
on. Let
He
me finish
ignored
what
it.
I was saying because it's very important. What I'm about to say is that a lot of times God will give you certain requirements as far as He want us to do things His way. So if God say, "I want you to seek Me," I want you to, if you're going about His word, He can, let's say you're going about His word and you praying for healing and you just do that or whatever the case may be. And some people, some particular cases, some people fast, or they put the anointing oil all over the person's body, and and they pray, and and God answers that prayer. You know what I'm saying? Now you can't judge that prayer. You can't judge God and say, "Well, God, why did you heal that person? How you didn't heal?" Because let's say it's not done in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's not. Let's say if you didn't heal or if you didn't pray over that person and he just died. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Let's say like, can you blame God for that? But it's certain things like you say you blame. Can you really blame God for it? But like everybody is gonna have their day that they die, and sometimes you're not gonna. I believe, but let me just say it like this: be careful how I say certain things. Believe it could go both ways. You could pray and heal, go fast or whatever, and and it's up to God. Yes, if I put it in God's hands, like as far as like this, if my mom was on cancer or whatever, and I put her in God's hands, and I start praying and I fast and I do all I can do, and then if she still dies and she still dies. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can see you being mad at God and be like, well, God, what happened? You know what I mean?
You're breaking up.
I think we might have lost him.
Yeah, we lost. But yeah, I was just saying, yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like yes, I would say,
Like I was saying, but
uh, I would say yes, God is responsible for a lot of the stuff that happens that's bad in the world. And I can show you in the Bible. If you go to Romans 8, where it talks about God was the one who put the second law of decay in the universe. God was the one. He's the reason why the universe is running down right now. But at the same time, I would argue, because Romans 8 says that he did this for the reason that one day the universe can share in his glory. So I would say that all the bad in the universe that we see today, it does have what's the word I'm looking for? Or what's the phrase people say? Is going towards the what they say when they kill somebody? There you go. It's going towards the better good or something like that. You guys know the saying. You guys know the phrase I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's going towards the better good, and so yes, those things are bad, but it could be that the reason why certain things happen the way that they do happen is because these events, the way they're playing out, this is the best possible way for these things to happen. So in the hopes that that something better will come. And so if these events didn't play out the way that they did, it could be that God couldn't bring it about, that the new creation and the new heaven and the new earth and et cetera, what Christians believe in. It could be that if these things didn't come to pass, the new things wouldn't come to pass either. And so I think as Christians, I think that should be one of our explanations or reasons to have that hope within us, because that is the Christian hope, right? That we do believe that there will be a new creation, and I think that's a better way to look at it. We can reconcile with the evil and the death and the suffering in the world without us saying, well, this is the way things happen, blah blah blah. That's it. So I
But
think
it sounds, from my point of view, that sounds a bit like a rationalization, right? You're like explaining away the problems with which, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but to me it just sounds like you're rationalizing, right? You're making an excuse for the way things are, and that's, like I said, you might be right, but that's how I see it, I guess.
I don't know. And you know what? You could be right about me rationalizing it away. However, I do think it's legitimate, because I'm not saying that God isn't responsible. Like God definitely did. Like He put the universe into the chaos. Like there was death and suffering and stuff in it.
Assuming a God exists, you're
Right.
not wrong. You're right, right? Assuming there is a God, you're right. I'm just saying, because I don't believe in a God, it just comes across as rationalization to me, and it's a little bit post hoc, right? Like you're not. There's no predictive nature. I mean, prayer has the efficacy of chance, right? So
Oh no, I'm not even
it's
going
not
play
really.
into it. But like take
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like take prayer or whatever. I'm just saying that 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 God is the person who set death and suffering and stuff in motion. So these things are real events that really happening, that God, yes, you could say God is the cause for it because He's the one who allowed it to happen. But at the same time, what I'm saying is He's using all of the death and the suffering, etc., so it can bring us to a better good. There you go.
And that's your faith.
And right, and that's
I get
right,
that.
right,
Yeah.
and that's the hope I had. And so in that perspective, it does make sense. It's something I can reconcile with. And yes, people die and etc. like that. But if that really is the purpose of this life, in the end, it is quite rational.
Well, and in some ways, I'll be honest, I have a view of things that you might think is irrational. Like I kind of think we're here by chance and things are as they are, and it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's pretty
You know,
cool the way.
I would agree with that.
Right, but I also think like in the end, it probably doesn't matter. The universe isn't going to care if humans live or die, right? Like I kind of just see it as things are just going to end up the way they're going to end up, and the universe doesn't care. Nobody outside of us cares. So the only meaning we have is what we give life, right? It's us. So I mean, I don't know. Some people say that's irrational and that's nihilistic and whatever, but that's just how I see things.
It's rational based on like I guess like the conclusion that you come to, that no deity exists, right? But
Yeah.
I would say it's not really fulfilling.
Yeah, I almost think it is more fulfilling because I'm not basing my life on something intangible, right? Like I have a very real thing that I base my life on, right? That's like the stuff around me, the people I have, my family, my friends, the things I love to do. These are very real things, and that's what I find happiness in, right? So I think that's great. Whereas with God, it was like there's always that little bit of doubt, and it's like I don't know, and it doesn't that didn't make me all that happy, not being sure of something. So
Yeah, but isn't it like so? Lawrence Krauss, he actually, so I think he would disagree with you. He would say that's the point of doing science. It's the joy of not knowing.
oh no, yeah, no. But that's not knowing with a method in place to find an answer, right? To me, that's a little different than religion, because I never felt like I honestly, when I went away to university and I started to learn how to do things scientifically, I was just thrown, like this is amazing. I was so impressed because you can just create an experiment and then conduct it and then look at the data and then get results from that and learn something, and it's solid, and then you can take that and you can give it to other people and they can test it, right? And you've got all this I don't know, you arrive at a consensus, and that's pretty amazing. And I guess I just never felt that with religion.
Well, the way I see it, science is great. The scientific method is awesome. Even one of the guys who developed it, Francis Bacon, he was a Catholic priest. It's an amazing thing. But when it comes to spiritual things, which are on a whole other spectrum, our scientific knowledge will only take us but so far. And so
Of
it's like
course, yeah, of
you
course.
come to a wall, and like it's like everything you learned up until this point, it won't really help you out.
Exactly. And I that's why I don't get it, because I can't make the leap over, right? Like I can't switch tracks. So
Yeah, it's something that I guess you keep on seeking and you keep on finding it. Some people they just they just either give up or they don't see a point to it. So I can't really say anything that to really help you with that. I wish I could,
yeah.
but
No,
I
but
don't
you
know.
are helping me, because I just want to know what you believe, and I have a better understanding now, and I like that. It makes me happy.
Oh, one more thing. Are you Canadian? Is that a Canadian accent here? Are
Yeah.
you let me see. Are you from around Red Deer? I got a friend who lives in Red Deer.
I'm close. Calgary.
Yep.
Yeah. I am.
Yeah, so I understand Shar. I really do understand where she's coming from, because it's this. When you really look deep into it, it can be confusing. And like when you start questioning things, like I have done it before, and it can be very confusing. Like, but it actually helps my faith. It helps me. My dig deeper and research and to really understand. So yeah, I actually understand where she's coming from.
Well, and that's cool. And I just think, honestly, like, you should never stop, right? You should never stop asking questions and learning and reading and talking to people, right? You do all these things, and wherever you end up, I honestly think is where you're supposed to end up. So as long as you do it honestly.
Yeah, Cliff Jump actually said something in the side chat. He said, "Of course, the simplest assumption or I guess explanation isn't the case." And I guess like and I guess I'll end what I'm going to say even like with this. So like your position, Shar, based off of what we know about the natural world and science alone, that is the best rational conclusion to come to if you only look at it through science. But when you look at the universe from different fields of knowledge like mathematics or psychology, stuff like that.
Math is kind of science. I don't. Psychology might be wishy-washy, but
well, there's a contrast between math and science, and I just had to write a paper on this too. So math can take us to the places where science can't necessarily take us.
Of course.
Yeah. So there's more of like you can find out more about the world through mathematics. Like for example, string theory. I'm sorry, not string theory. Super string theory. Yeah, we start talking about like the different dimensions and the 11 dimensions that we live in, but we can't see them or feel them, but we know they're real because the math tells us. And so, in a sense, like just because we can't do experimentation on it, it doesn't mean it's any less real than the reality we're perceiving. But what I'm saying is, I do think that based off of what we know, I think your position or your explanation, I think is too simple. And though it could be the case that the universe is just, just randomness and we're just here for no reason, I think it's so much more grander and it has so much more explanatory power philosophically that we are here for a purpose and a reason. And I think the purpose and the reasons that I found out through my Christian faith, I think they help make sense of reality even better.
Well, that's a nice view. I just don't. I can't make the leap, but it sounds cool.
I think I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what. Cause when I started looking at like theistic evolution, right? Like I thought my religious beliefs are like, oh, like this is it. Cause I definitely did I still said I'm still gonna believe in God, but I didn't really want to do the footwork into building my theology up again. And so I just said I'll just believe in God. And then when I started to look at the theology through the lens of actual science, not just younger creationism, not just ID stuff, and I started to like build my theology back up. And when I started to have the theology next to the science, so I could get the big picture of how God created and so I could get the whole story. Here you go. So I could get the whole story. It's so much more grander than I could even had imagined.
What about us scientifically, like how we got here? What about us is missing in science that you needed more?
Well, the things where science can't go, like why are we here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't. I never. That question doesn't interest me. I know that sounds
Really?
sad. I don't care. Yeah, like I just really like when people ask that, I'm like I can't even understand the question. What do you mean why? Like I don't get that. I guess I don't know. I try to understand why people ask why, but I'm not sure.
Well, I guess I don't even know if you've even gotten a good answer, but because the answers I've gotten were pretty bad. Like like it was better off like you're not even telling me that because it's so boring. But
yeah, like I don't get that. Like because asking why infers something outside of nature, right? Like there's that assumption that something exists that caused us. That it's leaping to an assumption in order to ask the question, and I feel like the question doesn't mean anything because it's based on an assumption, like that I don't hold.
Well, I mean, I know we didn't just pop up here, like everybody didn't just pop up here for no reason. Like I know there has to be a God. No way that humans can make a cloud, star, a space, all of this stuff.
I think
There's no way that we just pop up on this earth and like with no meaning and no, ain't no particular meaning. No,
I think that's a bad
I think
argument.
it's a meaning. It's about argument, bro. It's not about bad argument. Like I said, we all talking about different.
Yeah,
everybody got their
but
own
that's an argument. You're
assumption
giving
or what
right. You're giving an
what they
argument.
believe.
And
Hold on, man. Like, listen. I'm not here to argue. You already know me.
yeah,
I'm not
but
here to
I
debate,
know,
argue.
I know,
So
I
what I'm
know.
trying to
Look.
can I
Look,
finish? Can I
I
finish what I'm
know.
saying?
Listen.
Like you don't. If you cutting me off every time I
No,
talk.
I hear you, but you be going on these long-winded like sermons. Hold up.
It's not about that. I'm trying to. I can't never speak how I want to feel when you
You
cut me off.
spoke like 7 times.
No, I'm not. I'm still speaking. I'm still talking.
Okay,
Let me finish.
Okay.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So what I was trying to say, Shar, is that how I feel, my opinion on how we here, what made me I wasn't always a believer. So how I got to how I believe, I had to understand the same similar where you was at, because it was like who is God, why is God, and but I started understanding like, all right, well, how do we get here? Where did the clouds come from? Who made these things? And I know, like Wayne said earlier, the Bible was like the best interpretation of how it explained how these things came into part. So that's where I was coming at. That's all I was trying to say. That I believe that that's where God comes in, on how all these things came about. Now, as Wayne said, him being a scientist, he had dissected all these things and tested to see, from the Bible standpoint, he basically studied and went from the Bible standpoint of what the Bible was saying. Why are these things? It was talking about time and matter and going in so deeper into our creation and when what the Bible talked about in Genesis and how everything came about. So that's why like I say that I think like why there's a God, because all these things in this earth, it's really nothing that explains to me why these things came down here. Like a lot of people said Big Bang Theory, that's how we got here. So what do you believe about
Well,
Shar?
so
What do you
I think
believe
you're
as far as
I think you're confusing two questions, because there's a why and there's a how. We understand the how pretty well, but there's
Okay.
no answer to why. Like, because why isn't really a question, right? Like that's implying something like a God, and science doesn't deal with why. But how, we know the how, right? So I don't know. I feel like if we know the how all the way back to the Big Bang and a God isn't required, I don't really see how. I mean, but if you want to answer the why question, like why are we here, then that's where you need your faith and your religion and your Bible, right? Because
right,
science doesn't answer that.
right. But no, what I meant by science was like what Wayne was saying. Science is there you could use as a tool. It's a tool that you could use. Science is a tool that proves, or that you could use to test the word of God, or you could test and see, certain things is true. And that's what Wayne had did. He had studied and tested and see if certain things were true. And that's what made help his belief, because he said there was evidence.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's
No.
where you go by it. That
No, and I
science
get
helps you
that.
find the evidence. Yeah,
Yeah,
Wayne was saying science helps you find the evidence to, why he believed.
I think you can, if you do it correctly, I think you can reconcile science with the Bible. I think you can. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was into that. I was like, looking for science in the Bible, and there are ways. And I know General Han Solo has some really good explanations of things. I just find that it's all kind of unnecessary, because it's based on, you'd have to take the Bible and research it to find these parallels. And I don't know that it's necessary, because you could probably do the same things with other holy books or just with old ancient literature in general. I don't feel the need to do it. I mean, if you have a faith and you want to, what's the word? Like prove that you're right, then I think what do they call it? A concordus?
Concordus approach. Yeah. So general is a concordus, and I now that like over these last couple of months, I'm more of an accommodations myself. So like I say, like let the Bible be the Bible, let the science be the science.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't feel the need to do it, because I don't see. I don't know. It's all very like. After
like
the fact to me.
What did Galileo say? The Bible tells you how to get to heaven, not how the heavens go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I find there's too many, like you have to stretch your interpretations too much to make everything work, right? You have to write some things off as metaphor or parables because they couldn't have happened, like the worldwide flood. I mean, you go there and it's like, well, okay, that didn't happen. So was this a metaphor? Was it a local flood? Was it like, it's all about interpretation at that point. And yes, I'm sure you can find good interpretations, and you might even be able to find the best interpretations every time, and they might fit with science, but I just don't, it just seems like a lot of gymnastics for me, and I'm not that into it.
I think you should take any ancient book in the perspective of the audience. So you got to think, who are these people writing to, and what did the author actually mean? And so like when I look at Genesis and stuff like that, I honestly think Genesis was literally a poem. But only like Americans look at it and they think like these were actual 24-hour days, especially like you didn't have a sun on day one. So I don't get that. But Anyway,
Yeah.
so like I think it was a poem, and I think the ancient people would have known it was a poem. But
Yep.
only because our cultures are so far apart.
Well, and I also don't believe. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the Bible, while it's an original work, it borrows from other things.
Right, I agree. Like
Not- And
the
not
laws
yeah,
of Moses, right?
yeah, and in not necessarily like plagiarizing way. Like it's not like it's copying, but let the stories existed before the Bible was written, and they were
Yes.
written in other ways. And so it's not, you can't, how can you take it literal? Like, I mean, if you're going to take it literal, then you have to look at the Enuma Elish and talk about the separation of the waters and all that stuff. And would you take that literal? Probably not. So to me, just because the Bible is a little more rational sounding doesn't mean that it's literal, right?
Yeah, and I even stopped using that word literal because like funnies love that word. I say like I think Genesis is literal, but I don't know if you have to make it historical.
Yeah.
I think it's very unnecessary to try and argue scientifically for two specific humans who may have lived God knows how long ago. Like I don't even think like we would even find their bones because they would have been decayed by now.
Well,
But
and I actually don't think it's even possible for there to have ever been two humans, right? Like that's genetically impossible. So I would think it would have to be metaphorical and poetic in some way.
yeah, like I don't think the people were trying to teach us science. They
Yeah.
don't know anything about science. It's a story to just try and explain how we've all sinned against God, and we all have broken our relationship with God. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, people make it so much harder than it has to be. But when you start getting into like the science and stuff like that, you can understand. Okay, I can let the Bible be the Bible because the Bible is an ancient book, and
Yeah.
it's not a science book. And the science can teach me about how God made it and stuff like that. And the Bible and the religion can teach me why He made it. And boom, there you go. There you have your religion.
Yeah.
Now,
What do you
if
think?
you
Like
what do you say?
when it comes to this question of why, what does the Bible tell us? Why? Why are we here?
Romans 8 gives a very good explanation. So it basically says that God it says God He set the universe in motion. He set the laws in motion of as a matter of fact, I want to pull it up on my screen. I think it's Romans 8:21. Give me 1 minute. If somebody can pull it up faster than I can, that'd be awesome. I think it's like Romans 8:21 or something like that. Or Romans 8:19. Wayne, don't be shy.
I'm looking for it, but
Yeah, I got it loading on my phone. Do you guys have Verizon Fios in Canada?
which?
Verizon Fios?
Verizon?
Yeah, you guys. Oh, no Verizon in
No.
Canada.
Are there other guys on the call that are not saying anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. One guy came in. He hasn't said a word, so I don't know. Maybe he's shy.
No, we have different internet providers here.
I was gonna say Black, the guy Black.
Yeah, Blackhead. He just came in and like, Christian man, are you still in here? Don't be a stranger, man.
Do you guys still on? I want to hear something from Mr. Black.
I got to put up on my phone. Romans 8. Yeah, this is Romans
8:19. 8:19 is for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed.
Right, and then if you keep on reading, it says, so this is verse 20. It says, it says, for the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one. And then in some versions, one is capitalized, meaning God.
Yeah.
By God who subjected it. So God was the one who subjected the creation to frustration in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time, etc., etc.
Okay, so essentially though, the why is because God willed it, and that's really it, right?
God willed it in hopes for, so God is using this creation to
Mhm.
segue us into a better creation.
Okay.
Right. And so there's been some people who've been positing that because the Bible gets into more theology, not philosophy. And so I think it was Leibniz. Leibniz had he had a proposition where he said it could be that God had many different possibilities for him to choose from. And this actually goes into Molinism. I don't know if you know what Molinism is.
Not really.
Right. So Molinism and Leibniz problem are pretty much one and the same. It basically says that God has middle knowledge. God not only knows what will happen, but he knows about what would happen. I think it's called subjunctive unconditional. So God knows what would happen if you were to go down this street, what would possibly go wrong or whatever. So God knows what would happen about the future. So he has all these different possibilities in front of him. God could have made the universe this way. He could have made the universe that way. And so God being good, God being perfect, he chooses the best possible option. And within, this line of reasoning, within, somewhere down the road, there will be things like people getting cancer and animals dying and, people getting sick and all these things happening. But these things happen because, out of all the other choices, this is the best line of possible choices that can bring us to the ultimate goal or to God's ultimate purpose. And so God, in his infinite wisdom, he starts up the universe and lets these things happen because, these are the best possible ways. It's almost like a mother and a father, right, who are married and they have a daughter and their daughter dies in a car accident. And what would happen if the daughter would have never had died is, because of her death, the mother and the father who were about to get divorced, the death of their daughter actually brought them closer together. But it could be if the daughter never had died, the parents would have actually gotten a divorce. It would have split up the family and nobody would have, gotten closer. And so it actually turns out in the daughter's death, it actually brought the family together. Whereas if the daughter would have never passed away, it actually, their family would have gotten broken up.
But if all these things are set in motion and we are subjected to futility, then I guess where do you find comfort in that? If it's all just set in motion and we have really no say.
Well, that would be more like a Calvinistic view. So I would say we do have a say where we do have real free will and there is a real randomness in the universe. It's just that God uses this randomness for his overall purposes. So God there's actually a quote. It's God is able to use the free will or the randomness of his creations to fulfill his overall goals. So I don't see that as a bad thing. I actually see it as a really really clever. I think that's really clever where God uses real randomness. Like we can make real choices in real
Right.
random situations, but God just knows the possible outcome. God was the one who set it in motion, but as everything goes on, the universe is what's the word? I don't think God necessarily needed to create the universe. God made a universe that could create itself. So we're going through the motions right now, and God is the one holding it together.
Yeah, because you gotta look at it also as God don't force you. If he was not to have free will, if he was not to have free will, that means God will be basically robots.
Well,
Like
not
we have to do
not just
everything God tells us to do and by his way. But that's kind of like how it was said, like when it comes down to free will, we have
well,
free will which means to me a choice.
well,
But,
bro,
Yeah.
not just free will, but randomness. Period. Like how the universe has randomness in it. Like people they get cancer because of random mutations. Things randomly happen, and so I think it's better to believe in a God who's more powerful with it because the Calvinist God doesn't use random. He causes everything to happen, and he is the one who makes these things happen. Whereas my interpretation of God, I don't think God moves everything to happen, but he allows everything to happen randomly according to his purposes. So I don't think all of the evil and all of the bad or whatever, I don't think it's a problem for it because in the end, he's using these events anyway for his overall purposes.
Yeah, I buy into the randomness, obviously. I believe that. I'm not actually sure I even believe in free will. I mean, I don't know, just just from what I've read and seen and done in my life, and I don't know. I don't know if I believe in free will anymore. I mean, we're still autonomous beings. We're still responsible for the things we do, but I have a feeling that our consciousness is just watching a movie, and that our bodies kind of do what they do because we're computers. And it's bizarre, but I mean, like they actually, I read a study, and it was an article that was written a few years back, and they're looking for the consciousness gene, right? Because they're trying to determine if mice are conscious. If mice are conscious, we shouldn't be doing lab testing on them, right? But if they're not, maybe that's not so bad. But one thing they noticed was that you can turn consciousness off in people, and that they still behave pretty much the same as they would if their consciousness was on. And one of those things is actually alcohol. So there have been studies where like world-renowned surgeons are alcoholics, and they literally black out but can still perform surgery without any memory of it because their consciousness has been shut off. And it's really fascinating stuff, right? Like, it's very complicated, and we're just on the verge of understanding any of this. Like, we still have so much to learn. But I'm not entirely convinced that our conscious thoughts have any bearing whatsoever on what we do. I think they might be an after effect, honestly.
I don't know. I haven't looked into the science behind that. I'm more used to just arguing with Calvinists who say we don't have free will.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess like even like a Bible verse, I would even draw up because James, the book of James talks about temptation, and it says if somebody is ever about to succumb under the grips of temptation, God will provide a way out. And so I guess it goes to show whenever somebody does sin or do something bad, there could have been an opportunity where you didn't have to do it. You could have chosen the way out. So there goes that subjunctive conditional. So that's really interesting. I got to look into that though, because if that turns out to be true, maybe I'll become a Calvinist.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, when I just, like, from personal experience, every time I've sort of thought about this.
Does anybody know this guy? Really big dummy?
I do. He's good.
All right. Okay. He's about to get kicked, man.
No,
Come on, man. Don't be like the Calvinists like to kick out everybody.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. No, I just kind of feel like no matter what, we always choose to do the thing we want to do most, right? And I know that doesn't sound right. Like, if you just think of, like, without thinking about it, obviously that sounds wrong, but it's true, because in our lives, we weigh not only our desires, right, and our impulses, but the consequences that we can foresee, right? So, I'd really like to go and get drunk and stoned, but I have to work tomorrow, and I don't want to be hungover, and I'd have to get home, and I wouldn't, like there's all these things, and our brains do that for us. We hardly ever even are aware of what our brains are, they're measuring the pros and cons of things. And in the end, like, you make a choice because you've determined it's the best choice based on all of those factors, some of which you're not even aware of. And so where's the free will in that? Like, how are you actually making a choice? Do you know what I mean?
I guess so. It's kind of, but I can see your overall point.
Yeah. It's tricky, right? It's just something, and I've spent lots of years sort of thinking about it. So it's,
I think
it's hard to put it into words.
It's something we should study, man. It's something we should consider, because you know what happened there. There are people who are like, oh, I'm too scared to look into this because I love the idea of us having free will, but no, like, if we don't, like, that makes things interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And hey, Thaddeus, and I've been waiting.
Hey.
What is this picture of? What is your profile? Because I've been looking at this for a while. I just haven't actually. What is it, the Tooth Fairy or something?
Oh, it's a custom drawing that I drew myself.
Oh, okay.
It's basically me as a fairy / pixie. Yeah.
and really big dummy. We haven't even met before, and the guy at Black Pack
He was
has
in Antonio's hangout before.
Yeah.
Oh, how did they treat you? How did they treat you over there?
Did
Not
he really
bad.
answer that?
Darwin's deity was there, and he's pretty.
Oh,
He likes to he likes to talk on the mic, and I get that. I try to be very careful in these rooms because I understand that people are very worried about trolls, and I don't want to be perceived as someone that's like. So I just try to let people like. I don't want to try to hog the mic, and I want to be polite. Yeah.
Yeah, but Darwin's deity turns everything into like a speech, and like he starts like begging questions. Darwin, let me tell you something. Darwin's deity is a hangout jihadi. Okay, he is a hangout terrorist. He is not allowed in my room, and I the last time I went to a hangout with him, he kicked me because I wasn't going down the line he wanted me to go down with his line of questioning.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you what, if Darwin does want to be a lawyer, he actually, they have schools for that. I mean, he can get an actual like doctorate or something. So.
I don't know. I find him kind of cool because because even though he's can definitely interrupt hangouts and that, it's kind of the good kind of stupid. It's like it's the one that's interesting to listen to. It's fun seeing people go through their first time with this person.
Yeah, they just don't know what they're getting into. But
yeah.
We were just talking about we were talking about a lot of things, but I guess like the theme of this hangout was just better arguments for the existence of God. Because I made this hangout because earlier today, Drag he made a post on Google Plus, and he said out of like the intelligent designers and the creationists and stuff like that, like nobody has good arguments for God's existence. And I guess what people have been doing nowadays, I guess like Christians, I can only speak for Christians because that's all I really see, is when they argue for God, they think they're proving God. They think they're proving God to somebody, which that's not what you're doing. You're giving justifiable reasons for why you believe in God, but I don't think anybody can prove that God exists.
Yeah, that is a tricky one. I mean, shoot, I just think, I know some people might not think so, but I do think there is something to be said about at least proving the supernatural. But as far as God himself exists, like that's the one that's real and everything, that specific one of the Bible, that can be a little tricky.
I think proving the supernatural would be a good start.
Yeah, but
I feel like that's easier done than even proving the Christian God.
I don't necessarily believe in the supernatural though. Yeah. I'm a Christian and I don't necessarily believe in the supernatural. I believe God is. Yeah, I know, right? Tell me about it.
That's a weird one.
I'm a theistic naturalist. I'm a naturalist, man. So I don't like if we were able to recreate or redo something that was supernatural, it would automatically be natural. So it wouldn't be supernatural.
Dude, you're like one of the first ones that I've ever heard have that position.
I don't.
Usually a lot of Christians in that they just accept things like demons and all that.
Yeah,
I do. I don't identify as a Christian.
Yeah, they exist and stuff, but like as far as like miracles and stuff like that, and like people like paranormal experiences, those are natural.
Really?
Those are natural events.
Not all of them, man. Really?
No, but what I'm saying is like.
How many miracles really occur? Like, in my whole, my 25 years of, really deep Christian living, followed by the 10 years of my wishy-washy deism or whatever it was, I must have prayed, I don't know, hundreds of prayers every year at least, right? And I can only really remember 2 of them ever, coming out as miracles, and they were pretty small miracles that also could have just been chance. And of all those other ones, just nothing ever really happened. And I remember hearing stories at church about miracles, but I never saw them. Nobody was ever able to verify them. I feel like of all the people in the church and all the prayers that were happening all the time, there should have been some real miracles. And
nothing you can say for sure was supernatural. I mean, I've had experiences myself, but again, it's like they weren't good enough for me to say for sure that they were supernatural.
Exactly.
Sure they were pretty weird. I'm going to admit that they were.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say.
I've also had people tell me things like,
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like
I've
like
had
they've
people
been
tell me
abducted
more
by
things.
aliens and
Yes.
stuff. And I mean, I don't know who to believe and who not to, right?
See,
Right?
I've had more people tell me things than I've had experiences, which is
Exactly. Who hasn't?
Yeah.
I met a girl that
And-
she was buying crystals at the fair, and she would have to hold each of them for 5 minutes to determine if the energy was in sync with her. And I'm like, how do like they really, people really believe these things, but there's no way to like test
Justify-
that. There's
right.
nothing.
It's like the weirdest feeling though, because I'm surrounded by some people, like I have friends in real life that have said that they've experienced these supernatural things, and it's like, and none of you guys have it on tape or nothing. Like, can I
Right.
see,
Yeah,
please? Because like I'll have a
Yeah.
better time believing this stuff if I can just see it.
I had so many. I remember as a kid, I discovered like this box of cassette tapes that my dad had. Whoa. My dad had this box of cassette tapes, and I remember listening to them all, and I was maybe too young because there was lots of like demons and like all kinds of these crazy things, but it was all testimony, right? Like it's all just a guy talking about all these crazy things. And I believed it at the time, but now looking back, it's like it was just a guy telling stories.
Yeah, that's the problem I have. Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that causes me not to believe, because my brain kind of works differently. I'm not exactly a skeptic in that regard, but does make it seem less credible when you really think about, because all it is just a guy's like antidote. So
Yeah.
so you're not really getting a chance to have the like physical evidence and that be shown. So
And-
sure, it could have happened. I'm not going to be one of those people that says no, it didn't happen or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know what that guy was on. He could have been on drugs, or could have been drinking when that happened to him, or he could
Or
have just
maybe
been
he-
experiencing some sort of weird delusional thing, like some sort of
Exactly.
psychological thing that runs in his family. I don't know his background, so I can't confirm if it was supernatural or not.
We're very superstitious people too, and we're so prone to confirmation bias, right? Like it doesn't matter how stupid it is, right? Like it's like when I'm sitting at a red light, it's like turn green now, and if it turns green, I think I did it, right? Like
That's
that's
the
how we
power.
are. That's how we are. That's just how we live our lives,
Yeah.
right? So it's so difficult.
Oh, it's sad.
It's true though.
I no, don't get me wrong. It is true. Man. I think that's why some of the people give me a tough time in this community, because I'm probably one of the least skeptical, if you could even call me a skeptic, because there's a lot of stuff I believe, but still.
Yeah, I don't really get into like the supernatural stuff. Really.
Man,
I'm
if
a
you do,
Christian.
man, it goes deep. Let me
No,
tell
because
you,
like
I've looked at it.
when people say supernatural, I think what they really might mean is like highly improbable. Like this was a highly improbable event, and the best way I can, the best way I can explain this highly improbable event is, I don't know, something mysterious. When
Yeah.
if you really look into it, yeah, it was a highly improbable event, and like, if the same circumstances, were to come about, it would happen the same way over again. It just like I don't see it that way. Like I like even like the miracles in the Bible. Like I have a whole like philosophy behind it. I think the miracles in the Bible were like natural events, because the minute the minute it happens in a natural world, it's natural. It's natural laws, allowing it to happen. So I don't know what supernatural is. I've never seen the supernatural. I don't think supernatural exists in this realm. Everything is natural.
Well, is it just a definition thing? Because I mean, shoot, you mentioned you
Well, no,
you questioned my avatar, and I've even heard of people that have even claimed that they've seen pixies and fairies and stuff. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's part of the natural world. So,
like
it's nothing that biology
anything.
is nailed down.
Well, in a sense, it is part of the natural world, because it was a perception which was generated by the brain, which was natural, right?
Not
Right. So
I mean, unless you're suggesting when they saw pixies, they actually saw there were actual.
I think
pixies.
some of them
That's
might have
different.
seen something. I'm not saying that they were pixies,
Yeah,
but
but-
I
all right,
do
so-
believe that there's like demons in that, so maybe that they could have been tricking them.
I have no idea, but all I can say is if any of that really did happen, the minute you see a demon or an angel or whatever, that entity or that being is bound by natural laws in order for you to even see it. So it's not supernatural. It's a natural event.
Well, if something can possess something, is it still bound by natural laws? Because
Well, it depends. Drugs? Like,
right, because
yeah,
because then you're like then you're talking about like spirits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like if you're talking about like a physical being appeared before you, like that's I would say that's natural. It's completely natural, and
but
we
is,
can
ev-
explain
but
these
is- but is
things.
everything we see necessarily physical, though?
no, but it
Because-
doesn't mean that
because-
your brain isn't still seeing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But when the people that see ghosts and stuff like that, I use ghosts
so-
in quotations. 'Cause I don't really necessarily.
No,
believe-
but I mean, if they see ghosts, are they actually taking in light in the shape of
Right.
a ghost into their pupils? So
Or
is
is
the
it
light
something on
the
a-
light? Wouldn't the light have to be natural? So wouldn't it
Right.
have to be? Yeah,
It would have to be natural.
I get what Wayne is saying. I'm on board with what Wayne's saying here. It has to be natural in order for us to perceive it, because we have no way.
Or maybe everything natural has to like reflect light and stuff that way. But if it's in a different realm, it doesn't follow the same rules.
So
yeah, but we can't test
Because
that
if
though.
we have,
like,
hang on, but you believe we have a spiritual self, right? I think we're both
yeah,
we're both on
see-
the
but
there.
See,
Yeah,
now
but-
we can
but-
solve this if by just you guys we can solve this if you can just demonstrate that we have a soul or a spirit.
right,
Then-
and
then we're getting
that's what that's what. All right, so when people say soul and stuff like that, I because you do know the Hebrews, they thought soul and spirit, they thought all of this was science. They really did believe this stuff was science. Like when the Bible talks about heart, they thought your heart was in your stomach. So like they were wrong about that, and I understand that, and I think there's some merit to it. But I think with what we now know about science and stuff like that, I think Christians can synonymize the soul or
See,
with
the problem is only science deals
Sorry.
with only the physical realm, though.
But sorry,
Right.
just to
Soul still could technically be in your stomach, but not on the physical realm, physical plane.
yeah, but I
I
wouldn't
just
take
wanna-
your science to be true.
just to add, I doubt that they thought this heart was in the stomach because it would be so easy. for-
I've actually read some things. There's a lot of people, maybe it's more of a modern kind of belief, but there's a few people that are saying that the soul actually might be in the stomach. It's
the soul, but not the heart.
Cool, though.
Like the heart, you would just have a dead body, and you could look at it.
not,
and
not
you
the heart. Unless
Just-
you're
yeah,
talking
I
about
know.
like a metaphysical kind of thing. Do you mean heart and
Yeah, like
spirit?
the heart, the spirit. Like
Yeah.
they would synonymize it with your spirit. That's why you feel funny and stuff. Like they didn't know anything about the brain.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's kind of an interesting philosophy, though. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily 100% true. But I mean,
I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
it's true
interesting
at all because I think their
can't-
science was just wrong. So
I just can't imagine, but I just can't even imagine a soul, because what would that soul be? Like, is it me now, or is it me 20 years ago, or is it me 20 years from now?
well, it's basically like your life essence, right? Like
Well,
your
so
life
what is a life essence? So there's no memory involved?
What do you mean? There's no memory involved?
Well, I am my experiences. That's who I am. I am.
Yes,
I'm,
but even an inanimate object still has stuff happen to it. What causes the aliveness?
how
the
can you-
consciousness. That's a different story.
I mean, me as a Christian, I can't answer this stuff because I haven't seen this stuff. Like all I can say is I don't know. I believe it exists, but like if you want like proof and want me to paint it red, I don't know.
No, that's a really honest answer. I like that. Because I don't know either. I don't know either. I just think if you can shut off consciousness, I mean, if you've ever been under a general anesthetic, you're just
I
dead.
have.
You're dead though, right?
Yeah,
Like
anesthetic.
it's like you're dead. Like kind of. Like everything.
Because you still wake up.
Sure. Except I'm just saying, like, there's nothing. There's no dreaming. There's no thought. There's nothing. It's just this black, and it's so empty that, like, you wake up an instant after you go to sleep. Like, there's no time passing in the
But
middle. Do you know what I
again,
mean?
that's just physical.
Sure.
That's all on the physical plane. That's the problem.
Exactly. So how can you affect a soul or a spirit when you're affecting the physical body? How is the soul affected? If you get drunk or
Because-
high, how is the soul affected?
Because they're all connected. I mean, that's how I
Right,
see it.
because it's all natural.
It's just
that's
like how
how I
your
see
mind.
it.
It's just like how your mind's connected to your body. That's the same way your spirit is connected to
Unless
your mind.
if you're saying that your physical body controls your soul or your spirit, then how is your soul or your spirit not natural?
Boom.
Like, how is it outside of you?
Mic drop.
Because if we can't detect it by science, I mean, the whole reason I use the term supernatural is just it's stuff that
Okay.
science can't necessarily explain
But we
yet,
are
or
getting
might never be able to explain.
we are getting closer to understanding consciousness. And if we do figure that
Yeah.
out scientifically, then what have we got left?
I'm still right.
I don't know. I mean, we still haven't been able to catch like a proper spirit on camera yet.
Well, that's true. Once
Or
we
if
do
we
that,
have, I haven't seen
it would help.
Are you guys all Christians?
Well, I'm a Christian.
I think Wayne's more of like a Christian / deist.
I'm a misotheist.
You're a what?
Misotheist.
What does that mean?
Basically, it's like I believe the Christian God is there and stuff, but I don't really like it. It's basically like I'm basically like the straw man that that the Christians like to say all the atheists are, where they suppress the truth and righteousness. I actually kind of do.
You believe in
I
God,
believe all
you
this
just
stuff.
hate him.
Oh yeah. That's why do you think I was talking about spirits and stuff?
No, I know,
I was raised that way.
You're kind of like a Satanist, but an
Not
actual
really.
Satanist.
No, he's
No.
not Satanist.
No,
No.
no.
Oh, so do you mind typing in what you said, because you said something theist? I couldn't quite.
Misotheist.
Mytho.
Misotheist.
MISO.
Oh, okay. And so you actually believe in like God
Yeah.
and Jesus and all that,
Yeah.
but you don't like it.
No. It's not the
Yeah,
same
so
as
do you-
being what you mentioned, because that would technically I'd be serving another god, and I wouldn't want to do that either. So
But might you go to hell then in this
probably.
in your framework?
Oh, yeah. But you
All
but
right.
you can't just start believing. Well, not even belief. You can't just accept something if it doesn't sit well with your own personal like moral values. Otherwise, it's not true.
Yeah.
I could
Absolutely.
be in vain to basically keep calling myself a Christian and all that when it's like there's so many things I disagree with at this point.
But you
Like
know
it
it's
it seemed more honest.
Yeah,
Daddy,
you know.
you go to hell then?
Probably. Unless I'm have some sort of revelation.
You know, but like, so
You
like,
know what I mean?
I call
I still
myself-
keep my mind open. It's not like I'm closed minded about this. Oh, I'm never coming back or nothing. But I mean, I've still, done my research. Every now and then I've gone to these hangouts, and just in the meantime, you can kind of think of it as I have other stuff I'm focusing on in life. Like the Great Debate community is not my number one
no.
thing in my life. So I mean, there's other stuff I'm doing right now. Maybe I'll come back to the faith. Maybe I won't.
But really,
other
really
things I'm
big
focusing
dummy, really big dummy said respectfully that is a bizarre belief. You want to know what's a bizarre belief? is Calvinists that think they're not elect and that they're going to hell. That's bizarre.
Calvin. Oh yes.
What do they
Yes.
think? They think
They-
that.
They're not elect and they're going to hell.
What does that
no.
mean? They're not elect.
They don't believe that because Calvinists believe that only certain people are chosen to go to heaven. That you
Yeah,
have
like
to be elect.
it's like predestination.
Yeah, and there are Calvinists that believe they're not predestined to go to heaven and that they will go to hell, but they're still Christians and they still preach and they still do all these things.
What?
Yeah.
So what's their hope? Like, do they have any hope
I
at all?
don't know. That's bizarre. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why. If I ever do come back to Christianity, I won't be a Calvinist.
No,
Wait,
no.
Yeah.
Molinism is the way to go. But yeah, if that's the case,
what?
like why Molinism? That's the way to go. Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. What if why can't I just be a normal Christian? Shoot.
I mean, you could, but Molinism is like more advanced. But like, why would you be like, why? Like, why not just be a misotheist? Like, why not just say, like, I know God exists. I'm just not going to heaven. Like, screw him. Like,
Why? I said it's just my honest position.
well, no, not you. I'm just saying, like, the Calvinist guy. Like, why not just be a misotheist? If you know you're going to go to hell anyway, like, what's the point? Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I can see your point. Like, yeah, like,
Yeah, it's
really
like-
weird.
Maybe he doesn't hate God though, because I mean that.
Yeah, but how could you not?
Yeah, I know what you're saying though. I'm just saying I can't speak for him, right?
Honestly, I have a hard time understanding how anybody can believe in a God that sends anybody to hell and not kind of hate God. Like, I don't get that.
Well, that's
It's-
one of my major issues. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a big thing for me. I know that some people have ways to reconcile that, but
Because it's one thing, like, I mean, it depends on the God, right? And it depends on what you believe in. But to send people to hell because they don't believe, that's terrible because belief isn't even a choice, right? God sets everything in motion. I am what I am, and I don't believe I'm going to go to hell because of God. Like it's outrageous to me. I don't understand that thought process.
The only way I could see it being reconciled, really, and even then, it's more of a kind of strict way of looking at it. It's as if it's kind of up to everybody to actually, do their own research, find the information so that they do have a chance of believing. Because technically, I think that if God really is fair or whatnot, the information is out there somewhere. There's enough information for you to believe. So
and
if you choose to do other things with your life, or you really don't, deep down, you're just not admitting that you don't want to believe, then that's kind of on you. I mean, I can kind of see it that way.
And which is why I'm not afraid of hell, because I can say that I have very honestly looked into this. I've tried, like I did the Christian thing. I tried to hold on to it. I've also looked into other religions and done other things. And where I ended up is the most honest position I can be in. So if I go to hell for that, I can't regret what I've done because it was honest.
For me, it's more of a morality thing, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. And so I guess I feel like if there is a God and he is a good person or a good being or whatever you call him, then I don't have to worry about it. And if he's bad, then I don't care because I did what I thought was right.
But
fine.
For me, it's like if you believe in God, man, it does. Like if you believe, I don't believe, but if you actually believe that he's real, do whatever he wants you to do to get to the place. Because heaven is so great.
No, that's terrible.
No, I
understand where you're coming from, man.
Well, I don't know because like when you think about Islam, right? Like they do whatever they can so they can go to heaven. That's why they like jihad. So I mean, I don't know.
That's living in fear, though. That's living in fear under a
dictator.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's actually how I viewed Christianity for like a good year or so here, which kind of.
Well, okay, it's not really living in fear under a dictator. I mean, you don't really have to. Compared for the payoff, you're putting in relatively little work. Like you just got to follow some basic commandments.
Well,
it depends. Actually,
it depends on the commandment. Because if the commandment is to believe, I can't do that. I can't make myself believe.
Well,
but you already believe in this scenario. Like
Christianity is different because Jesus said the greatest command is the love, and love doesn't hurt anybody. So.
Yeah. I think if you're deceiving, like if you're doing something deceitfully, God's going to know, right?
Oh, yeah.
In the scenario where God is real and you believe in him, you can't trick him. You can't I'm just going to pretend and you won't notice.
See, like what's the point? That's one of the reasons why I ended up just calling myself a misotheist. Is like, hey, at least I'm being honest about it. I know it's a weird position to have, but after this good year here where I was really feeling bad about the whole Christianity thing, it's like, I can no longer lie to myself about just calling myself that kind of thing, because obviously I'm not. If I'm just doing it out of fear, God knows, right? What's the point?
I respect your position quite a bit. In the way I dealt with it.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it does make sense. The way I dealt with it was different. I changed God, if that makes sense. So you kept the God you believe in and you changed your position, honestly. But what I did was I changed God. I just made God to be different and different and different until, so that I could keep believing, right? So I made God into... I thought
you said you can't change your belief, though.
Well, but my belief in God changed. So what I'm saying is I changed... Well, no, you can change... No, you can change your belief. You can't choose your belief.
Okay.
So your belief changes, your belief evolves, right? Like everyone's beliefs change, but you can't just say, I'm going to believe that country music is the best. There's no way I can just I just can't make myself believe that. But if I were subjected to country music over 4 or 5 years and it was the only thing I had to listen to, there's a chance that I might start to like it, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's not a choice. It's something that evolves. So
you might get the prerogative to have a little fun.
No, so I changed God. I had to believe, I still believed there was a God, but I thought if if there is a God, he has to be different. He must be this, or he must be this, or he must be benevolent, or everyone goes to heaven, or, you know, or he doesn't care and he's just out there watching and it doesn't matter. Like, so I had to keep changing my mindset,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I know. I hear you.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, don't get me wrong. I've had thoughts like that too, where it's like, you know, it's like if God was real and that like he's supposed to be all loving, good, then we're supposed to call him good and all that, and then he must be like this and that. Well, not necessarily. That's kind of where my mind kind of set. And it's like, you know, there could still be a God out there. It's basically, you know, a jerk.
It makes sense to me, honestly. Like, as bizarre as your belief might sound, like, I think it's honest, right? And that's the most important thing anyone can be, is honest with themselves.
Yeah, even in Antonio's room, I mean, DD congratulated me for being the most honest about my beliefs because they feel there really aren't any atheists. So,
well, yeah.
Well, no. I do think there really are people who don't believe, because I never was an atheist, right? But I never accepted evolution, right? And so I know you don't believe in evolution, but I can kind of see where you guys are coming from, because it would be the same as if people who accept evolution say, "Oh, everybody really accepts evolution, whether they want to or not." But no, I didn't at all. I was very skeptical of it.
I would never say that. I know there are so many people that don't know what evolution is, let alone accept it.
Personally,
Right.
I do accept like evolution to an extent. I think there is something to be said about, I know it doesn't really have to touch on evolution, but like life's exact origins, like whether, you know, abiogenesis came into play or not, or whether, because I mean that kind of gets a little bit iffy for me when it starts coming to.
I would love some answers on that too. I mean, wouldn't we all? I think it'd be great if we could make life.
Even when it comes to some of these like common ancestry things, it's like, okay, so how much of these life forms that really did all come from the ocean, if you go back far enough, or how many of them just kind of came from some previous forms? Like maybe there's a few like set previous forms, like original forms that God created originally, and then like some life was able to basically adapt from there. So maybe we did start out with a few different base like life creatures that didn't come from anything else.
Well, maybe, although they have found now, I think we're back to 3.5 billion. Oh, actually, no, that's not 1.5 billion.
I thought it was 4.3 billion, right? That we went all the way back to like 4.3, right?
No, that's the Earth, though. I think, yeah. So the oldest fossils are. Oh.
Well, no, yeah, I'm telling you, like it's around like 4.1 billion years.
Yeah, you're right. I think 4.2 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like literally just blobs. Like there's nothing. So I mean, we at least know that much. I mean, before that, who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, like
so
I some, like a part of me, like a part of me can see where it can be hard to like wrap your head around the whole. If we ever did eventually, you know, going back far enough, come from fish and all that, like, you know, that could be a little far fetched. But
well,
I mean,
the thing is, like, it's genetics. It's when you look at the genetics, like you can map it all out and it just works. Like there's just no question. I mean, we even have, like, I don't know if you know what human endogenous retroviruses are. Those.
I think I heard Steve talk about them a few times.
Those are so fascinating, and I don't understand why they're not like telling everyone about them, because they're really cool. But it's basically like when you get a virus, like a retrovirus, like even like AIDS is a retrovirus. But when you get it, it pops open a cell and it rips open the DNA and it inserts a bit of itself inside your DNA in some random location in your DNA, right? Okay. Now, if that happens in a sperm or an egg, right? And then that sperm or egg turns into an organism and then that becomes part of its genetics, like its entire genome, like every gene in its body will have that retrovirus in that one location in its body. And then it has a baby, right? It has offspring and it passes that on. And the only way that can happen, obviously, is if that retrovirus isn't harmful enough to kill the organism. And most of them are. But it can happen where it doesn't. And it's not harmful. And it gets passed on. And we share these little bits of these ERVs, that we call them. We share them with like mice and other mammals. And we can map it like back quite a long ways. And it's really interesting to me, because there's no way to explain that other than, like, the only creationist way to explain it is that God put them there to deceive us. That's really the only way you can explain it in terms of creationism, because it is just impossible statistically for this to happen, right? So it's really cool stuff. And that takes us back to like the earliest mammals, at least. And then beyond that, they start to degrade too much for us to really be able to trace them much further. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I understand. Like, I understand why people, accept the evolution thing, because it is like the best theory we have, that supports like the different evidence and all that. I just kind of wonder if maybe there's a possibility that maybe someone has maybe like looked at the evidence like the wrong way, or maybe we've kind of jumped to conclusions too much on some things when it comes to how they evolved and all that.
It's not only the best theory we have on the diversity of life, it's actually the best, most supported scientific theory of all, if you can believe that. Like, of all of the scientific theories we have about everything, about gravity and space and accretion disks and everything, evolution is the thing we know the most about.
Oh, so maybe there might be some credit to the flat earthers.
How do you quantify that? How do you go to?
Because just the mountains of evidence. Like, so it's not like we've got the fossil evidence, we've got the what do you call it? The archaeological. I can't remember what it's called. Like, but the layers of
be very hard to,
layers of the earth, radiometric dating. We've got genetics, which is unbelievably like it's the nail in the coffin. Like, there's so many aspects of the genetics that are obvious that like it's hard to even go there.
It's interesting that you just said that. The other day I was talking to somebody about the bell curve and in science of what do they call it, psychometrics, and he was saying that psychometrics are the most tested, or the most proven theory in psychology. But I was just thinking how hard it is to compare different things. So
it is
yeah, like you can't quantify it to, I have 8 pieces of evidence in this and 8 in this. Like, what do you mean some of the evidence? And
plus, was this in the Krillism thing that you're talking about?
Yeah,
because some of the people in the Krillism thing can be a little extremist,
right? But that's
there's a reason I don't necessarily jump in there.
But that's psychology. Right? Psychology is a whole other field. Biology is much more.
No, I'm not.
And I'm not even knocking this guy. For all I know,
I know.
He could be right about psychometrics. Yeah.
Oh, guys, I'm about to go off air. Hold on, give me 1 minute. And for the people who are watching, that's a wrap.